All right, we're live.
Thanks.
It's on. We're on. Okay, good evening, and welcome to the 5 p.m. January 25th Board of Trustees work session in the Village of Mamaroneck. I need a motion to open this meeting.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. As is our wont these days, we're going to move directly into Vice Council executive session. First item on Vice Council, never-ending saga of 130 Beach Avenue. An executive session, Goldstein versus Village of Mamaroneck. It is anticipated that a motion will be offered to enter into executive session pursuant to 105(1)(d) of the New York State Public Officers Law, as is related to matters of pending litigation. Second matter is Hampshire Country Club LLC. It is anticipated that a motion will be offered to enter into executive session pursuant to 105(d) of the New York State Public Officers Law, as it is related to matters of ongoing litigation. I will make that motion.
Before you make the motion, I think we need two additions. That 130 Beach Avenue will also be an executive session because we can't vote on it or discuss it. We can ask council and get their advice, but we can't discuss it and advise the council. We have to go to executive session. And I'd like a follow-up regarding the email issue that was discussed in Vice Council in executive session at our last meeting.
What was that email issue, Dan?
It had to do with inappropriate emails potentially to staff.
I would
Amend the motion?
I would move to amend the motion. I think we had the second matter we discussed with Labor Council, so I think we should discuss it, but we don't have Labor Council with us. But I would amend the motion because I'm not sure we were properly in executive session 2 weeks ago, and I think we just want to make sure we do this properly.
I think I agree with.
About whether or not we were properly in executive session here in open session. We should probably listen to what the attorney says in executive session before we say things that would hurt the village out here. So.
Nora's moved and I'll second it.
Okay, this is to put 130 Beach Avenue also on executive session.
Yes.
Yeah, and the emails. Yes.
No, she didn't move for the emails.
I did. I said I just think that I did move for both, but I think the conversation involves somebody who may not be here. So we should discuss it and figure out how to handle it.
I'm in the middle of a meeting now. Can we talk tomorrow?
I think if this was something that dealt with Labor Council, we should wait until Labor Council is with us. I mean, I don't have a problem discussing 130 Beach in executive session. I'm not sure I'm completely clear on what the email issue is. If my guess is correct, then we need Labor Council here.
So maybe we should postpone that for 2 weeks and have Labor Council.
That's what I'm guessing, but I'm not exactly clear.
Okay, so I will amend the motion to have 130 Beach Avenue be discussed not only in advice of council, but also in executive session under 105(1)(d).
To the extent you need a second, I'll second that.
Recall.
Trustees Lucas,
Yes.
Winthrop,
Yes.
Natchez,
Yes.
DeFore,
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Aye. See you in executive session.
Okay, so I want. Hey, Dan. Are
Hey,
they,
Kelly.
are they out of executive session?
Yeah, we just finished up.
Great.
Okay, can you hear me, Dan?
Yes.
Okay.
So, Kel, I'll let you know the one thing I told everyone else on the board. Because of this feedback issue, if you want, you can put yourself on mute. And when you want to speak, just press the space bar and it will unmute you.
Will do.
That's-
Thanks.
Okay.
Angle here. Okay. We've gone out of executive session. In executive session, there was a vote, or more accurately described as a revote, of the matter of 130 Beach Avenue with, I made a motion, which was seconded by Kelly Wenstrup, to proceed with an enforcement action against Mr. Stuart Teager of 130 Beach Avenue. And the vote was 3-2 against. So that being said, let's go on to a regular agenda.
Tom, I just want to make clear that I recused from the Hampshire discussion and did not participate. I left the meeting at that point.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to break at 7:15. First item on the agenda is a full-time village attorney. What this is that the Village of Mamaroneck would engage the services of an attorney who worked for the Village of Mamaroneck, who was an employee of the Village of Mamaroneck. We did this in 2007 when we got the mayoral chair. This is something that I fought for as a trustee. I put together a committee of 3 prominent lawyers, Mr. Milstein, Mr. Romans, and Mr. Ryder. Mr. Romans, unfortunately, has gone, and he's of sainted memory, but Mr. Milstein and Mr. Ryder are still prominent attorneys and partners at large law firms in New York City. Recommendation that they put together, and it is online, and I would ask anybody that cares about litigation in the Village of Mamaroneck and how we handle our representation to look at it. There are 2 things. I came up with an advertisement, which is how we went about it in 2007. We placed an advertisement in the New York Law Journal and in a couple of other publications that lawyers would frequent. And we had a bunch of applicants, and we went through the process of interviewing those applicants. My proposed ad is in the agenda here. Trustee Natchez shared a, what do you call it, request for interest?
Yes, it can be an ad. It can be however you wish to, whatever you want to phrase it.
Well, I think we're going to be asking for someone to fill a position that we're going to create, right?
Correct.
So we have to, after we have the candidate, we have to create the position.
Well, Tom, that's true, but you need to tell the people that you're asking to, to say whether they're interested or not, to give them a little bit more information as to what is going to be expected and what their duties are.
Yes,
That's
and
what,
I will read the ad I came up with because I think it covers that, and we can talk about it. Appointed by and reporting directly to the village board, the village attorney is the village chief legal officer. 7 to 10 years of experience, the majority of which should have been in the practice of New York State municipal law, and Juris Doctor degrees are required. Candidates licensed, active, and in good standing with New York State. The annual salary range for this position is, and I left that blank, depending upon the qualifications and experience of the selected candidate. Comprehensive benefits are also available. The village attorney reports to the mayor and board of trustees. The primary function of this position is to provide legal advice and counsel to the village public officials, management, and employees on major departmental issues and projects to assist decision makers with legal implications of decisions. This position will work closely with the village manager and the village departments, including providing legal advice with regard to municipal contracts, RFPs, bids, litigations, foils, permits, tax certiorari's, human resources, law enforcement, building regulations, real property, code enforcement, and developing engineering and environmental regulatory compliance and compliance by the Village of Mamaroneck with all applicable local, state, and federal laws and regulations, and developing all governmental agreements and shared services. The Village of Mamaroneck is accepting applications for a full-time position of village attorney, and it goes on like that. So that was my idea of how to place an ad. Is there anything that is lacking?
I think there's things that are within the expression of interest that are a little bit more detailed, that is important for them to understand. The board, their counsel to what they are counsel to, what they are not counsel to, etc. I'm also not sure that I would put the years in there. I think we have to look at, everybody in relation to whatever they had, what their backgrounds are, and decide who's best for us.
Well, I think it's important that we not just, if we don't put people's qualifications and experience, we're going to have people, we're going to have dozens of people right out of law school who are going to be applying.
I have no problems with asking for their experience and their qualifications, and I think that's important.
I think you want to have somebody, you want to have a pool of people that have the ability to do the job. Kelly?
I'll, on that matter, I don't think I've ever seen an ad for a legal job that doesn't say the number of years experience that they're looking for. I just don't think I've ever seen that. Tom, I do think that in your description, while it's very comprehensive, I'm missing the part where they would draft legislation for us. So I just think that needs to be added, that they would draft proposed legislation for adoption by the board. Thank you. I'll mute.
Okay,
I think something.
that is a good point.
I think we should actually work with both, because you need an ad that goes to the, not just the journal, which actually charges you by the word. So you have to be careful, right, Bob? And it's expensive, really, it's expensive. And also the bar associations, where we would like to put it, they don't want to have such a long advertisement. So, and on the other side, of course, you can cross-reference and say, for more information, see the request for proposals, or however we want to expression of interest in the village website and link to it, where you could have more the more details and put it on in a place on our website. So you could connect both, save money, be more focused on the ad itself, so we can go in the law journal and other places, and it can circulate, and I think we accomplished the same goal. So I won't get into the nuts and bolts. We can clean that just as you put it forward. I don't think we need to
Victor,
just craft it here in the executive session.
we're not in executive session.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, in work session. Forget executive. Work.
Would you be willing to work on it with me to do the editing? So that we're not hurrying it up and we can get it done.
Yep. Sure.
Is that okay with the rest of the board? If me and Victor edit it down? Nora, I think you're trying to talk, but I can't hear you. Is everybody trying to talk?
Nora, can you hear us? Nora,
We can't hear you, Nora.
we can't hear you.
All right, Kelly has a hand up. We'll go back to Nora. Kelly, you're muted. Take yourself off.
I'm sorry. I was just holding my ear to hear better. I do think Victor's idea of putting, a reference to the village website or a link for people is a good one. That would be a great thing to do.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can, Nora.
So I thought that Tom's draft, it looked like 3 different drafts, so I edited it. So let me just send everybody, I'll work on it a little bit with the conversation tonight, and just send it as a draft of the 3 ads. I didn't do much to the expression of interest, but I tried to sort of combine them, mindful that we pay by the word.
Well, okay, so why don't we do this? Victor and Tom can massage the ad, reduce it as much as possible, and link it to, an expression of interest that would be on the website.
Okay, let's look at the expression.
Does anybody have an objection to that? I think that's what you proposed, Tom.
Yes.
Is that fine with everybody?
Yes.
Victor?
Yes.
Okay.
I just want to make another brief comment on this letter. This letter, what I'm referring to, the Milstein Romas writer. I think it's 2006 and it's so relevant today. It has the 2 pieces. One is the in-house village attorney, and the other is managing litigation. I think they are very, very good. It's a very good outline of how you should go about it. I think we should adopt it as our policy. For example, it requires a quarterly review of where you have your cases, your caseload, and your budget along with it, and your strategy. It does. I think it's very relevant, and maybe for next session we can just incorporate what's here into a policy. Very simple, 1 page, but it'll keep us organized.
I think we might have done that in 2007 when we got control of the board.
If you go to the website, and the village attorney, there's something, but it's very simple and it's not comprehensive enough.
Because we used to do it. I mean, we used to get, in the last couple of years I was on the board, we were getting those updates, we were getting those prognosis. We did all that. And then, the mayoral situation changed. I guess they went a different path. So yeah, I agree with that. Just a quick story. When they were writing that, the 3 attorneys, we were at Mr. Milstein's house, and he said to Mr. Wright, "All right, Eric, you begin the first draft, and then you send it to me and John, and we'll edit it, and then we'll send it to Murphy, and Murphy can edit it." And I started laughing, and I said, I'm going to edit it just so I can say Milstein screwed this up, and I had to fix it before I sent it in to you guys. Which if you got to know Ira Milstein, it was a funny thing at the time. Yeah, I had to be there, I guess. All right, so it looks like we have a path.
Well, just one more thing, Tom, if we can. I'd like to try and set some timetables. I don't think we have to wait 2 weeks to come back to the board with it. I think we can empower both of you to agree on something and get it out. And I think we should have a return date. We're basically at the end of January. So it either should be the end of February or beginning or by mid-March. I don't really care which, but we need to move fairly quickly on it.
Well, we meet on February 1st. Let's just look at it on February 1st.
We have an extra meeting, right? Oh, we have an extra meeting.
You know, we could even, you know, this isn't something that has to be voted on. You know, you delegated it to us, and, we'll send the final draft out, and that'll be that. You can, say, I don't like this, I don't want that. Fair enough?
Thank you. Thank you both.
Yeah, I didn't have anything else to do.
Thank you all.
I do want to echo the thanks. To Dan's point, I do think it makes sense to ask for submissions by a certain date, and maybe, February 1st would be a good date to put in there. We don't want late submissions to screw up.
March 1st. March 1st.
I'm sorry, March 1st. That's right.
I think what also something Victor and I should do before we finalize this is talk to staff and make sure that we have in there what staff thinks that they need.
Yes.
I don't want to, have, come out with, and then staff says, yeah, but we need them to do A, B, and C. And, so I think that's a discussion we should have with Augie and the police chief and Jerry Barbario, the people who access the legal services the most. Fair enough?
Absolutely, Mayor. We're not going to do this in a vacuum. Yes, sure.
All right, fine. All right. The Police Reform and Reinvention Committee, that is something Jerry was going to present tonight. Jerry's not here. We're going to have this was put on the agenda before we talked about having a special meeting. We're having a special meeting February 1st, I think at 5 p.m. Is that correct?
Yes.
At 5 p.m. To discuss.
5:15.
5:15.
5:15? Okay, 5:15 to discuss this with the board. I can tell you that the committee and the subcommittees all work very hard. These are not easy issues. It brought up a lot of things that were good discussions and a lot of things that were hard discussions. But if we're going to grow, we can't shy away from hard discussions. So I think we wait until February 1st to have an update from the village manager, and hopefully there'll be more complete information. I think because I think the reform committee, a couple of them are working on more stuff. From the emails I saw today. So,
Tom, if I may, Sally, if you can make sure that the notice is sent out for the full-time village attorney, police, whatever, for February 1 at 5:15.
Sally,
Yes.
put this one out for the February 1st, 5:15 meeting.
I believe it has, yes, on the calendar with the Zoom. If not, it will be done tomorrow.
Okay, fine.
No, I understand, but it needs to be updated because we now have 2 items on the agenda. We have the full-time village attorney.
Oh, Dan, we said that we were gonna not put that on the agenda, that we were just gonna deal with it and get it out before then.
Well, that's fine.
Okay.
But it also doesn't matter, Dan, as long as we notice the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, Victor?
On the police reform, I've been watching, and I know how much work is going in here. But I did, and I haven't seen emails today, I'm sorry, but what we received or what was in the package were some of the recommendations. But I think the order requires a plan to be posted probably by now or by the time we get to discuss it. So that's where I want to convey, so Dan, you convey to Jerry that or to clarify, if we're going to have another document being posted for next Monday as a plan, not just a recommendation, or if he thinks the recommendations are the plan, then just to make that clear. But as I read the executive order, it has, and actually the outline includes more than the recommendations, which are probably most difficult issues, but the plan has to be, I think, more comprehensive than that. So I want to, of course, he's not here with us today, but can that be conveyed so we don't miss the opportunity to start the right the right track on Monday when we really address this issue, because the time is very, very, very short.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, establishing a fee for stormwater pollution prevention plans. We've talked about this. Where are we? Dan, you want to talk about this for a second? Donald? You're muted, Dan. Hit the space bar. Dan, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I think I tricked myself somehow. We spoke about this at the last meeting. You asked me to come back to the village board with a recommendation on the fee. I provided a staff memo, which talked about the language in the code. It does allow for the village to recoup fees associated with the SWIP review. I reached out to our consulting engineer to try and gauge the average amount of time spent on these reviews. For the simple ones, which is the majority of them, it's about 4 to 5 hours. The more complex ones that may call into play the DEC regulations, which go above and beyond the village regulations, that could be anywhere from a day to a day and a half. So for a 4-hour review, I'm proposing that we set a baseline fee of $750. If additional time is needed, the code allows us to recoup that cost. And then the same type of schedule for the more complex review, which is $1,500 plus as a baseline with additional expenses that can be reimbursed back to the village.
And a question or clarification. You just said 750 in the
Oh, sorry,
paperwork.
725.
725.
Yeah, it's 725. I apologize.
Okay, but I don't see here how you would incorporate additional time and how that's based. If are you saying 725 up to 4 hours?
No, they're all going to.
You can't be nebulous. You have to be very specific about this. You just can't leave it open-ended.
Well, the code says, let me read it. The Village of Mamaroneck may require any person undertaking land development reasonable cost at prevailing rates for review. The reasonable costs are going to be whatever's charged to us by the engineer. So it will vary per application, but I'm sure we could, prepare the proper language.
Okay,
So let's.
Can we go back to 725? How much do we pay the consulting engineer?
I think it's something like $188 an hour. It's less than $200 an hour. I know that. So I basically got up to 720 to 725 for a 4-hour review. But we could also
that would come out to 752 if it's 4 hours. Some will be more, some will be less.
Yeah.
So I think you have to, if you want to try and do that, you can't leave it nebulous, because if you're establishing a fee for a review, then you either have to say that up to so much time spent would be X dollars, and beyond that will be, on the clock or something like that. But you just can't say 725, and if we think we need to charge you more, we will.
Okay, I'm perfectly, I think we just want to establish a rational, understandable method for collecting a fee. So whatever the, the board would like to see as a mechanism, that's the important part.
Should it be just a per hour fee?
Or can I make a suggestion, Mayor? Maybe for the small ones, you want to set a fixed fee, even if it's not 100% accurate, because you're going to wind up spending more time fighting over what the amount is than what's a reasonable amount than you are, then you're going to gain or lose by setting a fixed fee based on the average.
Kelly's had her hand up.
I was just going to suggest that we say something like, maybe on the small ones, we say the fee is $750. And then on the larger ones, it's $1,500, which includes up to 4 hours of work and an additional rate of $190 per hour for additional work beyond the 4 hours. Something like that.
I think that, oh, sorry.
I didn't want to tie it to the consulting engineer because we hope that someday we will have a village engineer.
Understand that. I think that's a good point, but following up on that point, you have to do a SWPPP, if you will, for disturbances of, under 1,000 square feet as well, but it's a letter. It's not a full-blown, report. But according to this, we would be charging them $750 or $725, whatever. I think that for disturbances under up to 1,000 square feet, there should be no fee. And then above that, for 725 or 750 for up to 4 hours, and thereafter, whatever, plus any out-of-pocket expenses for modeling. Because when you start to model, that's more than just your time. There's an additional cost in that, and it may be in-house, it may be out-house.
I think we have to at least establish a baseline fee, because when we get the application, we've got to tell the person what the baseline fee is to start collecting.
No, I understand.
Yeah. The one item with Trustee Winstrup's suggestion, the reason we set a higher rate for the more complex ones, because we know they're going to take more time. It was I think like I said, the engineer said anywhere from a day to a day and a half. So I figured the 1,500 based on 8 hours.
Okay, so we could change it accordingly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do think that Bob's right. On a small one, you don't want to get in arguments with small situations. I think it probably just makes more sense to cap it and be done.
Okay.
That's my view.
But I also don't want to discourage people for minor activities, which is under 1,000 square feet by code. I think that, putting a fee on that discourages somebody to take a minor improvement project and say, heck with it. I don't need this aggravation.
I agree with that, Dan.
Okay. So basically it's, I don't want to say triple tier, but it's under 1,000, no charge, 1,000 to, if you want to call it an acre. When the DEC comes in, it's the 750. And then when it's the very large one, which is going to be the DEC regulations, that's when we charge the 1,500 plus the any additional time spent by the engineer.
Yeah, I think you got to come back with some very specific language that addresses that. And, I think those are the guidelines that would work.
Okay.
So 1,500 would cover the hourly rate for the engineer up until we exhaust the 1,500?
Correct.
So I think you would say, though, because you don't want to change this every time the hourly rate changes or every time, or if we hire a village engineer. So you just say $1,500, up to 8 hours of time.
Yeah. Plus
Yeah.
third-party review fee.
So Kelly, that would be in the fee schedule, which you look at every year anyway.
Okay,
You could review it when you review the fee schedule each year.
okay, thank you.
Then, I'm sorry,
Yes, trustee Tefor.
I was gonna say, so this is kind of a combination of the fees in Rye with the ones in the town? Kind of more or
Yeah,
less,
and- Yeah, and because I wanted it to accurately reflect what we're paying for the third-party review, I wanted to, speak to the engineer, kind of get a understanding of how much time they're spending, because I think, one of the things I've seen from the board is you'd like us to see or recoup our costs, not subsidize the costs for some of these developments.
yeah, but we're still more or less, because I think Mamaroneck town is a little lower, but they're very old. They're out of date. And Rye is more recent, a little higher, so we're kind of in the middle, right?
Yeah, and I think, the town of Mamaroneck has an in-house engineer, Mr. Wasp. I believe Rye has an in-house engineer.
Yeah.
So, there are differences. We don't have an in-house engineer. We're paying our hourly rate to our consulting engineers. So I wanted to put the village in a position where the fee that was assessed is accurate in reflection of what we're actually paying.
How about the fire inspection?
I will come back next meeting on that one. It's like I said, being in the office 2 days a week and having the fire inspector not there all the time, it's tough to get some of this stuff done.
Okay, so we can continue this in 2 weeks?
I will come back with a resolution for the stormwater fee in 2 weeks. And I'll put up back on the work session the fire inspection fees with a recommendation.
Okay. All right, thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is 1D, establishing a permitted off-street parking lot.
Yeah.
This is where we demapped the end of Old White Plains Road where it abuts St. Vito's and where it dead ends on the I-95 wall. It was used basically for parking. We want to make it an official village parking lot to both give control, clarity to the community and revenue to the people of the village of Mamaroneck. So Jerry is asking us, do we have a desire to do that? And I think we've talked about this before, and that that was the whole purpose of demapping, was to do this. So he's prepared a draft local law, which I'm sure he'll share with the attorney's office eventually. But I think he's asking us here what type of permits should be issued, and I think that's a moot point now because there's only 2 types of permits that are going to be issued in the village of Mamaroneck from now on. If we pass this law tonight, there's going to be the railroad permit, and there's going to be the general parking permit. So this would be a general parking permit, and that's also a price that we're going to set tonight. So I don't know how much discussion you want to have about it, but I think that was the intent when we demapped the street. Jerry suggests that we name it the St. Vito's lot, which kind of would make sense, but we should probably run that by St. Vito's before we do it.
Yes.
We'll make Salad and Basket into St. Vito's. Let's see if that's okay with them.
I have a couple of questions, Tom. The proposal is to make this a permit for overnight parking only. Why is that?
Well, there will not be any more overnight parking. If we pass the law tonight, there's just general parking and railroad parking. Those will be the only 2 parking permits in the village of Mamaroneck. When Jerry sent this out was before we had made that change, which we're going to make tonight. So this will just be a general parking permit, because after tonight, hopefully we pass that law, there are just going to be 2 permits in the village of Mamaroneck, General permit and railroad.
So the general permit is for 24 hours?
Yes. It's gonna be all over the book.
And is
So-
the general permit required on Sunday as well or not?
Yes.
I don't think we typically enforce the permit requirements on Sundays. So, if people
do
were
not.
driving to church, we could,
Still park.
allow it, but.
So how
I
is
have
it,
to take a look at the code.
Sally, do you know how, remember how it's proposed in the law change?
We're just changing the permit types. The days and weeks are remaining the same. And they're just Monday through Saturday. There's no permit parking enforced on Sundays.
Kelly?
I actually don't think it should be called the St. Vito's lot. It's a public governmental lot, and I don't think it should be named after a church. I just think that's,
Okay.
I think that's my,
How about the throughway law?
We could find a better place name.
What was the original, wasn't that originally
Strawberry.
Strawberry patch.
before the thruway took it over? Do you recall the name of the street, Nora?
It's Old White Plains
No,
Road.
but I can look on a map. I will do that.
It's Old White Plains Road.
No, I might have been, we'll figure it out.
Okay. All right, yeah, but I guess the question here is, do we want to pursue that as a parking lot? And I'm not, Kelly, you do?
I do.
Anybody not want to pursue that as a parking lot? Okay. Then that is a decision.
But I agree with Kelly. I don't think it should be St. Vito's name on it. I think we need to come up with a better identification.
Okay, we don't have to do that tonight. The question really was tonight.
No, I understand.
All right. The next item on the agenda is an item on the agenda that I brought up before, but I want to rediscuss it because I want to take out the whole part that we were talking about setting an hourly rate. And I want to talk about this just in terms of if someone is indemnified, and they have a retainer agreement with an attorney, and we are expected to pay that retainer agreement, we should have to approve that retainer agreement. Right now, there's absolutely no control over these costs. And I think if the controller knew that we were doing this, it would be a red flag. We have, we have costs that were ran up in the neighborhood of $143,000 for an ethics case. Believe me, there are indigent defenders, the defendants or convicts on death row who wish they had a fraction of that spent on their defense. A fraction of that. So I don't think in good conscience, we can, keep paying stuff like this unless we approve the retainer agreement. I mean, I don't know how, as a board, we could spend the taxpayers' money with abandon without having any control. Kelly, you got your hand up?
I do. I think that, in general, we vote as a board whether to indemnify, like we have to decide whether it's a proceeding. And so it seems like we could just approve this at the time it comes before us. Bob's shaking his head though.
No, it's a matter of law. It's not a decision that the board makes. The board's already made the decision years ago by passing the local law that says any time an official is sued as the subject of a disciplinary proceeding, that the village will pay for the cost of defense. So it doesn't come up to the village board for a vote.
Right. But that doesn't mean that, that we have necessarily abandoned our fiduciary responsibility and people have carte blanche. I think this is very, very important
Yeah.
to the financial stability of the community. But all I'm saying is if you engage an attorney, the Board of Trustees have to approve the retainer agreement.
I
It stands now.
I I don't know that it's appropriate to get involved with an agreement between an attorney and his or her client. I'm not sure that that's,
If we're paying the bill, it is.
I'm,
Right. You wouldn't be, the attorney, the client could pay whatever they wanted to pay. You'd be capping just saying the village will only pay up to X. After that, you're on your own.
but we don't need to see the agreement to do that. I mean, I'm just saying, would you, I mean, would your clients be comfortable showing an agreement you had with them to somebody else?
I don't think you need to, I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think the mayor's suggesting that you have to see the agreement. I think you want to say, we're not paying more than X.
Well, then that has nothing to do with looking at individual agreements.
Well, but Nora, are you really saying that we have no responsibility over that money?
No, I'm just saying, I don't think it's appropriate to ask somebody to provide a business agreement they have with their lawyer. That's all. I mean, I think that you introduced a new idea.
Well, if you're asking the taxpayers to foot the bill, I think that they have a right to have us make a decision about whether that's reasonable.
I'm just not sure that I'm not sure it's appropriate to ask for information between a client and his or her attorney.
Then they don't have to be indemnified. I mean, that's the
Tom, this is like you're introducing a whole new idea to this. I'm not sure that anybody would want to share the agreement that they have with an attorney. That's like we have to figure out whether that's even reasonable. Bob said that wasn't needed.
Well, what Bob's saying is, but Bob's not saying that we shouldn't control the costs. We have no way of controlling the costs. Absolutely no way.
I know, and I've said that, I have said that we've discussed this before, we've tabled it before. I think we should be discussing this once we've done all of the ethics reforms. This has happened once in the village, and I think we need to do a holistic review.
Yeah,
and that's been my position all the way through.
This is not something that the ad hoc committee is looking at.
No, I know that.
So it's two separate parts of the law. Right now, we're at $143,000, and there's no. I feel shocked and awed by that number, and I think that a lot of people in the community do too.
Well, and I feel shocked and awed by the fact we've spent so much money because we had to hire different attorneys because of this. This has been the village board has spent money too, because we had a situation where there was another board that was able to conduct an investigation, and that there were no fiscal responses. There was no fiscal control there either. So I think we need a more holistic approach.
That's totally not true. And I'm sorry, it's factually untrue. It cost us nothing to have them do their investigation. It was part of Bob's retainer agreement. They did not spend a dime.
Well, but we needed to hire another lawyer. We needed to hire another lawyer because
We did not need to hire. The board decided it wanted to hire.
Because Bob had a conflict and couldn't represent us.
No, that's what this board decided. Bob didn't decide that. And that's the truth. So,
Let's clarify that.
To spend the money. The board decided to file a separate answer.
We had to hire a separate lawyer for you to conduct the hearing because Bob couldn't do both.
And that part is true, but that's not what that's not what you were talking about. You were talking about.
Yes, Tom, that's what I was talking about. We had to hire a different attorney so that you could conduct the hearing and so that we could get the record.
But the question out there is, do you want to have control over these costs or not? Because I'm going to write to the controller and ask him for an opinion.
Okay.
Victor and Kelly raising their hands.
Victor, go ahead.
Let you go first.
Well, I guess what I was going to ask is, do we as a board want to cap this in some way? And that's just whether we do it by setting a dollar amount or approval of the board. I just want a sense of whether there is an agreement to move forward on whether to try to cap it. I mean, I feel strongly that we should try to cap it and that we should then discuss how to cap it. But I'd like to know how other people feel.
I feel the same way that I felt when it came up, I don't know, 8 months ago. I don't remember the first time it came up. And that we need to discuss this entire issue in conjunction with the other reforms and changes to our ethics code, because this has only happened once, and it's happened regarding an ethics decision. Well, actually, it's happened a couple times regarding an ethics decision. So I think there's more to be said here. And I have said, I think that we should postpone this conversation until after this situation is resolved, and that we have a discussion about this and other aspects of how we manage costs. And we've tabled it. I mean, Tom's brought it back up, but we've had this conversation before. So that's where I stand. I think we need to, I think absolutely we should discuss it, but we should discuss it with a bunch of other reforms and evaluations.
Victor?
So I think it needs to clarify, we need to clarify that the fees that were charged, the rate of the fee that was charged by the lawyer for the indemnified party, Mrs. Goldstein, just to put me, was, I think, reasonable, unless somebody disagrees with me. I think it started $350, it's $400. When the board, let me finish, please.
Okay.
So the fee, there's two parts to it. One part, the fee or the amount is a combination of three things: the fee itself, the time that's spent, and the board does get to see those bills. The fee was reasonable. We did control the cost because we checked and said that nothing that was billed to us was wrong. You confirmed this the other day, and we had Augie and our treasurer look at this so that every bill.
Victor, you're on mute.
I got muted by the host. Maybe I got a note, muted by the host. Maybe it was a mistake, but.
I tried to fix it, and that's when I got the note.
Okay.
No, I was asking you to unmute.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, so anyway, the point is, the fees, both for the attorney, Ms. Goldstein, and our attorneys, were, I think, reasonable. Does somebody disagree with that? Okay, the fees are reasonable. They're standard in this area. Number two, the amount of work, we checked it. So every bill that we came here, we had to look at it, or we had the opportunity to look at it, and we voted in the abstract. We made sure that nothing was wrong. So number two. Number three, then, the issue is that whether the fee, whether this is, as Bob explained, the fees have to be reasonable. If somebody would come up with unreasonable fees, we have a legitimate reason why not to pay that bill. But more important, really, this goes to the if you go to the legislative history of this. It was passed, the first time it was in 1980 when the indemnification was passed. Mayor Oppenheimer was the mayor. Then it was expanded to volunteers on April 28th, in 80, give me 1 second. Yeah, in 78, actually, in 78 and the 80s, it was both done. Then they expanded it. And since then, this has never been a problem. The root cause of this is more complicated than the fee itself, which is not the problem here. And that's something the board is working on. So I don't see getting into a new law and discussion on this one.
Okay.
And I think some of the issues that were in that article from the law hood, I think have been clarified here. And I don't want to go into more debate about it, but fortunately it was clarified. There were some things there that were not correct. including the issues that some of the fees that have been incurred were legitimate because they were, because we had to hire an attorney and because the mayor had to conduct the hearing and because it took so long because of the pandemic, right?
Okay, you asked a question. Does
I have
anybody?
not asked any question.
No, you did. You
No,
did.
I did not. No question. It was a statement.
No, Victor, you said, I don't think anybody thinks that the fees were unreasonable. Okay, you're talking the dollar per hour.
Correct.
Okay, I'm not. I'm talking about the total hours billed. There were 360 hours billed to get you to that $143,000, which I think is excessive. I think that there were motions made that ran up the costs. I think at one point, they tried to bill us for the Article 78, and I caught it. And that was knocked off. But that was originally sent in. The work on the Article 78 was originally sent in for us to be paid. That's why people have been asking questions about it, and we refused to pay it. So I think that, you know, there's a lot of ways to make money in the legal profession, and it's not just the per hour. And I will stand by that. I said it before, and I will say it again. I think that we would charge too much per hour, not per hour, but per the work done. You look at what Adam charged a similar amount, Adam Stollerow, but you know, we didn't get the kind of bill from Adam Stollerow that we got from the other side. And we had no control over it, even if we disagreed with it. In essence, we had to pay it. That's my point. The only thing that we didn't pay was them trying to charge us for the Article 78, which frankly was outrageous.
May I say, Mayor, the bills were in front of us. If you had any objection, you should have raised it and told us. I think it's a very serious allegation,
I'm
what
sorry.
you're saying, but I'm not going to get into it. I think we did our part, at least I did our part of looking at the bills, and I didn't see, if I had seen anything that was not proper, I would have raised it.
Now, I made the allegation then, and I'm making the allegation now, that we were being charged too much. I said it at the time. I said it at the time, and I'm saying it now. I'm consistent. And the fact that they tried to charge us for an Article 78, you know, shows to me bad intent. And I'm sorry, that's the way I feel, and I stand by it. But that is not the issue in front of us. The issue in front of us is how to control this in the future.
Yeah, we addressed the root cause of it, I think. That's the main way of doing it.
I see no, you know, change in how to control this in the future. And it's a very, very important issue. You know, and we talk about, we argue dollars and cents here, and, you know, how to have the clerk treasurer's office present us with reconciliation of, you know, stuff going forward, which is good, but then we have no control here. You know, look, I'll write the controller and ask his opinion, because I think that this is really important.
But does Dan have a view on this? I mean, I know how Nora and Victor feel. Dan, do you think that we need to address this?
I think it needs to be addressed in the overall context of the entire ethics code. The reason the fees were so high has to do with how the village controlled their meetings. Okay, it was not the defendant.
But the code we're trying to change.
It was the committee. Let me finish, Kelly.
Finish.
It was the committee that decided on an approach, and it took whatever it took. I think there are lots of issues that need to be ironed out and straightened out. You know, in terms of capping fees, I'm not sure you can that is the appropriate approach. I think there are other approaches that probably are much more significant that will end up accomplishing what we're trying to do. But there are very significant issues that I know that the committee is trying to deal with and trying to figure out how to make, you know, meaningful suggested changes and reforms. And I think that's where we need to, you know, concentrate our energies. but I do agree that doing it piecemeal is not the right approach, and at this time is not the right approach.
I just want to point out that the law we're looking to change is not limited to ethics hearings. This isn't an ethics limited issue.
And I'd also like to point out, just as, for clarity and as a point of fact, is that the ad hoc committee is not looking at this aspect because this isn't in the ethics code. The indemnification is not in the ethics code. They're not looking at that. This is a Board of Trustees decision. All right, it does not.
So I understand the ethics code is not, the ad hoc ethics code review committee is not looking at fees. That isn't the point. Victor makes a good point. This has been a law in our village for 33 years, and this has only come up once now. And I think the root cause is something that is being addressed. And I think at that point we will evaluate everything together. But I think we really need to put these things together, which is what I've been saying for, I guess, since last spring or summer when we first discussed it. So this occasion, this circumstance has happened once in 33 years.
No, it happened with Trustee Santoro a few years ago. Which was
It did happen once with Trustee Santoro, but nobody complained about the amount then. So, in any event, I think we are all concerned about what happened with this matter. We're all concerned about the expense for the village on all sides. And I think instead of a piecemeal approach, we need to do a more holistic approach. So I agree with Victor and Dan.
I'm sure.
And I thank Victor for looking up that research.
Just to clarify, wasn't the indemnification passed for these hearings to pay for the attorney in the recent past after Trustee Santoro's hearing?
That's correct. The law was amended in 2017 to allow for the payment of, to require the payment of defense costs for administrative proceedings.
Right. So this wasn't, something that happened under Susie.
Well,
Laura, let me finish.
Fine.
This was a change that happened after Trustee Santoro's hearing. And I remember the board voting whether to pay Trustee Santoro's bills, because at the time, there was no requirement that they pay Trustee Santoro's bills. And
The requirement had been put on. I'm sorry
Yes.
that I was there.
The difference here is that the board voted to pay Trustee Santoro's bill to sue the village, not to defend himself, but to sue the village.
I'm going to ask that you guys let me finish. Two of you interrupted me that time. The law was changed after that for administrative hearings. So this does not go back to Susie. This goes back to Norman. So that's really where the discussion should begin. But that being said, I can see we're not getting anywhere here. I'm going to write the controller and ask him his opinion. I'll share my email with you. The next item on the agenda is
Wait,
John.
I'm raising my hand, please.
What, Victor?
Just to clarify, because it's very important to know the extension of the indemnification to the volunteers was passed October 6, 1978. Mayor Oppenheimer read the definition for the term officer and employee. She also noted that this term includes the mayor and the board of trustees, and that any elected official shall receive the salary and compensation. This term also includes members of boards and committees operating under the jurisdiction of the village of Mamaroneck. That's what she was saying. And they explained that the village doesn't recognize all the hours of all those commissioners. So essentially, if you want to, this law then was amended to extend to administrative hearings, including those in the village. That is correct. But if you want to change this entire section, it would have tremendous repercussions. So it's not an easy task. Then you would have to single for this proceeding, you cap it, for this one, yes, for this one, no. This could involve any decision made here or by any board. And I'll also say something to finalize this, that I come from Latin America, where unfortunately at some point, all this board, planning board and zoning board decisions became too political, and never gone back to the time where we do it here like in the US, where it's volunteer residents that spend hours and hours, and what they get instead is to the satisfaction of doing it, and the assurance that if they're going to get into trouble, a legitimate dispute, that precisely in this case is out in the courts, whether you take one side or the other, whatever you think. I won't say, I should not, I will not. But that is the largest issue, which is, are you going to defend those volunteer boards? And I think the answer was in 1978, yes. Then we'd expanded it, but if we're going to mess with this, it is really careful. I think we better go to the root cause of this, which is clean the code, make sure our proceedings are better, make sure that there are possibilities of fixing issues or clarifying issues before they get so far and become costly, and they don't come in the middle of a pandemic where it took several months, and that's why it's all this litigation happened. So let's just leave it there for now, and we'll revisit it, of course. We're all concerned about this. We're going to work in litigation. We're going to work in controlling costs overall, but this is just, this is not being abused in my view. And if the mayor insists on that, he'll have to substantiate or take the measures that he thinks are appropriate, but not changing our code this way to just steaming volunteer participation.
I disagree that it would be a monumental task to change the amount that this is capped at. I think that's not true. Well, the next item on the agenda is front yard garbage collection. We have 3 minutes about. It's on to set a public hearing to discuss on a regular board meeting. Is everybody seen the memo from Mr. Barbario?
One comment.
No concerns about it?
I don't see the discussion we had on senior citizens over 70 that I raised. Our manager agreed with adding it, and I don't see it.
I remember that discussion, Victor, and I think we were going to try to add, that I think, it was where no one was under 70 in the household. So if we want to add that, upon proof in the form of a note from a treating physician, or where no resident in the household is under the age of 70, that might make sense.
Yeah, I think we can incorporate that into the PLL, which will be on an agenda to set a public hearing.
But tonight?
It's not. I don't believe it's on to set the public hearing tonight. It'll be.
Isn't it?
Is it? Oh, it is. So we can.
That's why I'm raising it.
Okay.
All right, I'll try to come up with an amendment while you're
It is on the
doing
agenda.
other things.
So Bob, will you work on that?
I'll try to come up with an amendment while you're doing other business tonight.
Thank you very much. All right.
Excuse me, Bob, while you're doing that, you need to be careful that we just don't say under 70, because there are people, there are situations where there are people that are 70 or older that are taking care of very young children that wouldn't be able to move the cans out. So where there is an issue, I think is what we're trying to get to.
So that one I'm not sure how I can phrase.
I understand, but I'll leave that to your legal expert to figure it out.
Well, I think in that situation, they could apply for a medical exception and say, while I don't qualify, while I have 3-year-olds in the house and I'm 75, I'm not able to care for the 3-year-old and take the garbage out. If that's the medical issue.
Oh, but you could have a 6-year-old and they can't do that either. So I just think, I mean, I know of situations where that is taking place right now. Yeah, I didn't think about it until you came up with that, but that's what so I think we have to build in a escape valve, and I agree with that. But I think we need to be careful of that we don't shut doors on people that shouldn't have doors shut on them.
Right. Maybe the letter that they send to the village manager to get an exception can set forth their circumstances.
That's fine. But that's why I say I'll leave it to Bob to try and figure it out. I don't necessarily think it has to be a medical exception.
How about if we said no adults under the age of 70? Would
I
that
think-
work?
I think
How about able-bodied adults under the
There we
age of 70?
Well,
There
we already have a physical ability portion of this.
Okay.
Right.
We're saying, this, what I think I'm hearing is, even if a 71-year-old is physically capable of bringing the garbage to the front, he or she doesn't have to.
I think that was Victor's suggestion, and I think that's fine. I don't know how everyone else feels.
That's fine with me. All right. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second. All in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Aye. I'll see you back in about 15 minutes.
Fine, I have to use the restroom?
Hmm?
Need to use the restroom. Okay.
understand that we came within a hair's breadth of real harm that day. I think many of them are considering voting to convict the president. Those that are not are creating this elaborate justification in which, through placating the president by avoiding
Dan,
Yeah,
can you hear me now? It's Nora.
yes, I can.
Is it very staticky now?
No, it's not. I mean, we'll see. Hopefully it stays like this. But
Okay.
the reason I think it was yours is it was just at one point at which Cliff muted everyone. But,
Okay.
uh,
Well, I'll just keep myself on mute except when I'm speaking. I think that's the plan.
okay.
I can't hook up to my headset. I can't hook up to the system. I can only hook up to my webcam. So
Right.
we'll see. We do have a pretty geeky household. All right, I'm gonna put myself on mute. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, video.
Anything else on?
Kelly Victor's on. Sally Roberts.
Sally, I sent you an email.
I got
I'm
it, Dan. I just answered you.
I'm gonna keep my microphone on mute because Dan thinks I might be like a static or feedback problem. So
Okay. Oh, let me get my book. All right. Gang's all here. Okay, good evening. And welcome to the Village of Mamaroneck Board of Trustees regular session. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
Which stands,
one
one nation,
God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty,
and justice
justice
for all.
for all.
Good evening. It says notice of exits, but I believe you all know where the exits are in your house. First item on the agenda is opening of the meeting. I need a motion to open this meeting.
So move.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. First item on the agenda is communication to the board. I see Mr. Tippett is the first out of the gate.
Good evening, board members. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Quickly, we are fast approaching the spring-summer season. I'm assuming that we probably aren't going to have any kind of Memorial Day or St. Patrick's Day parade. What is the status of the Fireman's Carnival? What is the status of a day camp? My thought on the day camp is fairly simple. You could wait as late as April 1st, but if children aren't immunized by May 1st, you simply can't hold the camp for the possibility of a spread. Basically, the way the school systems have been working is if somebody gets it, they isolate them, they isolate anybody they've had contact with, and unfortunately, you can't do camp remotely. So, I think that if you haven't already canceled camp, you have to have that as a caveat, or because if you did have an outbreak at camp, are you going to return the money to the people? Most of the counselors you'd lose, their parents wouldn't let them come back. So I would just put, if you are looking to advertise camp, a caveat that if children can't get immunization by May 1st and they don't have their first shot by June 1st, there's just no possibility of having that many children in that close proximity in a summer camp situation. Parking on Boston Post Road, at this point, especially with your finances, you certainly do need it. I would make one change, both to Mamaroneck Avenue and Boston Post Road. I would start the parking at 10 a.m. There is nobody parking on Mamaroneck Avenue where the meters are between 8 and 10 in the morning. Most of the businesses aren't even opened yet. If you went to 10 o'clock, you would at least be giving the people who live in the apartments an opportunity to have a normal morning. And unfortunately, from 10 to 6, there has to be meters. You cannot put an exemption in for the apartment owners only. And if you left those spots open, they would simply be taken up by either the high school kids or the people at Harbor Island. So those are my two suggestions, and I will be having some comment of abstract of the bills and such, so just pay attention to my hand. Thank you.
Glenn, thank you very much for your comments. I think regarding the camp and the other parades, I think those are very good suggestions. The St. Patty's Day parade, we received notice today that they are canceling this year's parade and asking for 2022. So we're very conscious of it and very concerned about what's happening and the spread and being safe and protective and proactive.
Just so people watching know, the day camp, we will be following all the suggestions and approvals of the Westchester County Department of Health. And we will, follow closely the CDC and Westchester guidelines. Next up is Daria.
And one quick comment there. I agree. It's a serious issue with the camp. It's a complicated issue because actually the vaccines are not approved for younger people under 14 or under 16. So each vaccine is different. So this is going to be very complicated.
That's why we leave it to the Department of Health. Daria.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Just so folks know, there's a 5-minute time limit on public comment. But yes, we can hear you, Daria.
All right, great. I just wanted to ask if you could update us on the status of the village hiring a new attorney.
Daria, can you repeat that?
Sorry. Can you update us on the status of the village hiring a new attorney?
We are putting out an advertisement to hire a full-time village attorney who works directly for the village of Mamaroneck. That's the status.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Daria. Ms. Saul.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for performing your civic duty so well and carefully. I appreciate that. You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I sit on the Police Reform and Re-envisioning Committee, which was, I think, not originally, at some point we were told that we would be presenting to the board this evening during the work session. You got a very brief report from Mayor Murphy, and it was put over for February 1st in a special session. And then Mr. Tafour said, well, I believe it was Victor, that we should get ready to go as soon as those recommendations come in because we have to report to the governor by the 31st. Was that correct? Was that you, Victor? I think so. Unless it was
what I said was that we need a full plan. We need a full plan before us. Let me clarify before we go too far, since when I look at the executive order, it reads at some point, such plan shall be offered for public comment to all citizens in the locality, and after consideration of such comments shall be presented to the legislative body of the political subdivision, which shall ratify or adopt such plan by local law resolutions appropriate no later than April 1st, 2021.
I wasn't going to hold you exactly to your words. I just would like to tell you. I was going
to say is that it refers about a plan. So I just want to make sure that we're getting the recommendations and the plan together soon so that we can start looking at it, because actually before that, that's where the executive order talks about the committee that you're working on, all the other pieces that have to be put together. So that's all that was the purpose of my comment.
Okay, Ms. Saul.
Well, I would like to say that there were a couple of decisions handed down to the members of the committee indicating how things were going to be. And it was that we would split into smaller groups and that those groups would come up with recommendations subject to their topics. And the topics were something like civilian oversight or oversight, training, anti-crime, and others. And then we were told that we have to submit our top 4 recommendations to the village manager for presentation to the board. But I believe my understanding, and I think most of the committee's understanding, was that we would go into plenary session to discuss each subcommittee's recommendations, because otherwise we are not bringing you the committee's recommendations. We are bringing you a subcommittee of 3 or 4 people's recommendations would have never been discussed by the committee as a whole. And we don't have any more scheduled committee meetings, so that unless we change something, there will not be a larger discussion on those issues. And further, we were not told ahead of time that only 4 of our recommendations would be taken and presented to the board. And I asked, well, what about 5 through 10? And he said, well, you have to just pick the top 4. But I don't think when it comes to anti-bias training and examining ourselves as a village and as a police department, which is what the governor has required of us, a random number of 4 suggestions for each subcommittee is necessarily an appropriate number. I know the county, which has bigger issues than we do, but they just voted on 40 recommendations. And I think to rush it to you with only, is it 12 or 16 recommendations that have never been discussed beyond the smaller groups seems to me a short shrift to a grand undertaking, which has a lot of potential for positive change.
Just to clarify, it was my understanding that we were asking for priorities of 4, but I remember distinctly saying if you had more than 4, send them in, but prioritize them. So, this is something that we could take up with Jerry tomorrow, but I appreciate you bringing it to us.
Okay, I also want to add that we got 19 responses in Spanish, which is woefully low considering that 25% of the village is made up of Hispanic people, not necessarily Spanish speaking, but, and those were not translated into English. So the population in part that we are seeking most to protect, in fact, is not only terribly underrepresented, but not even being counted in terms of the greater population, and their voices are not being heard. And finally, I believe we need ongoing oversight because many of the recommendations are prospective, such as training for officers in the future and the possibility of a dashboard which would show the number of arrests, the number of...
Nassau, I'm sorry,
Sure.
well up, and I will share your email with the board.
Oh, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. Everyone have a good night.
Kevin Duarte Chan. Kevin?
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My people hear me?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me again. Tonight, I do not have a question, just a small announcement I would like to make to the board, as well as to fellow residents who are listening in. So as I'm sure that some of folks are aware in this meeting by now, I am beginning to help create a group called the Mamaroneck Taxpayer Watchdogs, and I'm doing so because I am concerned about the excessive legal spending that we are doing. This spending comes at a time when many residents of Mamaroneck are hit hard by the pandemic, including many essential workers who do not qualify for any kind of government assistance and are largely left to fend for themselves. I would like to invite everyone listening in tonight, including our village officials, to follow the Taxpayer Watchdogs Facebook page and website, as we welcome dialogue from different stakeholders and neighbors in the pursuit of government transparency. We are passionate about restoring the people's faith that the government in fact works for them, and we want nothing more than to restore that trust by showing that our village officials are acting in the interests of all residents and not just a select few on the basis of wealth. Thank you. That is all for me tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chan. Mr. Quiros. Glenn Wintery.
Unmute yourself, Mr. Quiros.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm calling, first of all, because...
Hold on, Mr. Quiros, could you speak up a little louder? It's kind of hard to hear you.
Okay, is this loud enough?
It's better.
Okay, I'm calling, first of all, Mr. Murphy, I'd like to see you. You're like a dot on the table in the screen. And yeah. I think people should be able to either change where you're sitting or go, because I think people should be able to see the person most responsible for elevating the legal fees in this village, creating a have and have not environment. So if you could sit someplace else, I would appreciate it. But you're a dot now, and I want the village to see your face as you walk around, because you're making the village very unaffordable for a lot of good people. I applaud the last two speakers who spoke, the lady who spoke about the police action. As you all know, the village, and I'm suing the village for significant dollars for the police department and you, Mr. Murphy, and the board. And your tactics will be visible as the depositions continue, but it is a joke. It is sadly a misfunction of what is happening in the village, and you're mostly responsible as you make sure that the rich people are the most important people in the village. And this police department has to be dissolved by its leadership, people without the education, people without the concern. It is sad that you would even consider a person in charge of the police department who's unqualified herself to even understand what the social economics and race of this village is. And I look forward to the depositions and what's going on. And you should check your ego in this village and the rest of the board that I'm looking at. You will not win this, Mr. Murphy. The village, the police department will not win this, not in today's environment.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're doing to the very middle class and poor people of this village. I'm on you, and I'm going after you with everything I've got.
Okie dokie. I just want to point out the last speaker disparaged our police chief. I don't really care what they say about me. Our police chief is doing a great job. She's only been in the office a short amount of time. And, you know, we all support her and commend her for the work she's doing. You know, people who have litigation active against the village have their own point of view, and they're welcome to that point of view. And they're welcome to their point of view about me. But I'm not going to sit here anymore and let people attack the employees of the village of Mamaroneck. Next is Mr. Salanitro.
Good evening. Quick and easy question. I have, maybe staff could help me. I'm having a tough time navigating the village website. I remember for quite a while, we used to have a drop-down tab on the website called litigation. And in that litigation drop-down, there was information about ongoing cases. That's no longer available. I can't see it. Not sure who would have taken it down. It was a great tool for the residents to view as a level of transparency. So can we get that back? Not sure why it's not there.
I think that the more people can understand what's going on, the better off we are. So,
Yeah. I mean, I'm not affiliated with any of the speakers that have previously spoken, but I was curious because there is a lot of news out there, and I was curious about the lawsuits and various litigation. And having had personal experience about it, I know that many civic-minded residents years ago pushed the village hard to develop transparency on these issues. And the village did a great job. They had that link. I think Dan Sarnoff should know. Sally definitely remembers this. And it was updated regularly. So as litigation was presented to the village on either side, the documents were online, PDF. Any information that came in from the court, any information that came in from either side of the litigation was posted, so that the residents were apprised of the ongoing matters. So I really encourage the village to continue that. Again, maybe it'd be interesting to find out why it's not there anymore. It's an
I don't know offhand why it's not there, but I would support putting it back up.
Thank you. Thank you.
I do know that there is a link on the for lawsuits and decisions that are on the village website.
Yeah.
But you have to go, instead of being on the main menu, you have to go to the attorney's web page, if you will. And then you have lawsuits and decisions.
You know, we can make it more.
It doesn't have all the most current things, though, looking at it.
We can
Yeah.
make it more prominent. We can make it more prominent on the front page so that you wouldn't have such difficulty looking.
Yeah, I have some old samples. I have some old samples of what the website looks like. So I'd be happy to help with that.
Thank you.
I just found it, and it is under the village attorney, but it's not very current.
Yeah.
We'll try and get it updated, and we'll get it in a more prominent position.
Great. I appreciate it. Thank you. Just help everybody. I appreciate it. Have a great.
Good suggestion, Benny. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan.
Good night, Penny. All right, that's it for public comment. Next item on the agenda. This isn't to schedule a public hearing, this is to have a public hearing. Right?
We scheduled it last time.
We scheduled it the last time, but it says on my paper here, schedule. This is a public hearing on permit parking areas. I'm going to ask the clerk treasurer to unmask for a second and explain this to the audience.
This is a consolidation of general parking permits. We will no longer sell RP Regatta Parking, Continental View, overnight parking, GP overnight, 24 a day parking, or GPI, general parking industrial. There will be one permit for all lots in the village, and that will be a GP permit. This permit will allow parking.
There'll be railroad too.
That's the code.
Okay, that's the code. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to rush you. I'm sorry.
This permit would also will allow parking 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in any village parking lot. This permit year will run from June 1st to May 31st. We will continue to sell resident railroad and non-resident railroad permits. We would also like to keep the permits for our municipal employees, which are M for municipal for 169 Mount Pleasant Avenue and RM for Regatta Municipal. These permits run from March 1st to February 28th. Fees will also be raised by resolution this evening, item 4E.
Okay. With that.
Sally Roberts did a lot of work on this.
Yes, Sally did do a lot of work, and this has to be done by February 1st so that we can send out and charge people to, and make it easier on staff, make it easier on the customers. I need a motion to open this public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Augie, call roll.
Trustee Winstrup,
Yes.
Natchez,
Yes.
Lucas,
Yes.
Lepore,
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Aye. Okay. Any comment or concerns from the Board of Trustees?
A comment that I want to make that was clarified earlier in the work session. These permits, the general permits are, et cetera, are going to be 24 hours a day, 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, not including Sunday.
That's correct. Yep. Anybody else?
For the consolidation. I think we've been waiting for this, and I hope it works for everybody.
I think it's a smart move. The simpler is always the better. Anybody else on the board before I go to the public?
No, I think it will be easier, and I think it will be clearer, and anything we can do to make current times easier and clearer is fine with me.
Great.
Bravo. That's exactly right.
Go to Mr. Tippett. Glenn, you had your hand up? Unmute yourself, Glenn. Mr. Tippett?
No, I don't have my hand up on the parking issue. Sorry.
Okay. All right. So then there are no public comment. I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So move.
Second,
Augustino.
Trustees Winthrop,
yes.
Natchez,
Yes.
Lucas,
Yes.
the four,
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Aye. Now I need a motion to adopt local law A.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Augustino.
Trustees Winthrop,
Yes.
Natchez,
Yes.
Lucas,
Yes.
the four,
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Aye. Thank you. And thus is law made.
I have a question then. This means we can now update the parking app? Would that change now? So we adopted this
Not really.
law?
The parking app deals more with the metered parking, not really the permit parking.
You have a permit parking, you're allowed to use those spaces, right?
Metered spaces. I think the only thing we allow is if there's overflow, we allow people to park at meter spaces in the Hunter lot. But the fact that the permit is visible on the vehicle is, the cue that the PEOs need to understand that the car is parked there legally.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
All right. So I'm sorry, where did we go? Do we need a motion?
Two, no, we adopted it.
What?
Been
We
adopted.
adopted? All right, good. Thank you. God, you're here, Augie. What do I do with that? The next item is 2A, budget amendment to fund allocated insurance budget. Dan, you wrote a nice little, Augie wrote a nice little memo here. Basically, there have been deductibles that we had unanticipated in insurance claims. Is that correct, Augie?
Yes, the insurance claims that come in, they give us a choice for an additional X amount, you get an additional 10% extra insurance. However, we budgeted for the standard price. So we advised that we should stay within the budget and follow the claims that we budgeted for. This resolution is to fix the 3 invoices that have been paid already in excess of what was properly adopted.
Okay.
Also, if I could finish, I'm sorry. Our claims in the on-account insurance have given rise to more than what we anticipated. We budgeted $30,000 and we had several accidents that brought us over the $30,000. One was for a car accident was $50,000 and another one was $30,000. That alone pretty much ate up most of the $120,000. The other remainder of the $120,000 is for flooded policies that were in excess of what we originally anticipated.
Thank you, Augie. Any questions or concerns?
So, Augie, are you saying that the additional premiums, we're not getting additional insurance, we're just covering basically the losses that we've had?
The $120,000 is composed of 2 components. One is for flood insurance and the other is for claims against the village that we have to pay, that the insurance negotiates. Those claims we budgeted $30,000. We wound up paying like close to $90,000 for those claims. And we're projecting from now until the end of the year, there's going to be at least another $50,000 to $60,000. We're hoping that this $120,000 gets us through May.
Understand.
Anybody make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Augustino.
Trustees Winthrop,
Yes.
Natchez,
Yes.
Lucas,
Yes.
the four,
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Aye. The next item on the agenda is order vouchers, abstracted vouchers. And tonight's grand total is $1,194,048.55. Do I have any questions or concerns? I have one. Augie, on page 6, McCarthy Finger, another $2,157.68 for Mr. Teakert's Article 78 against the village. I think that brings us up to about 6,000 for that. Do we know, Bob, do you know if that's fully, Bob Sposino?
Yes, I'm here, Mayor.
Yeah. Do you know if that's now fully submitted?
Last I spoke with the folks at McCarthy Fingar, it was not. Their response was due sometime in early February, if I recall correctly.
Okay, so there might be more coming in on that.
Correct.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, we've been in the process of transferring the record from that the village has to McCarthy Fingar. I believe they have everything at this point from us, but I can clarify that and verify that tomorrow.
Would you please do that then?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Anybody else have questions or concerns?
I'll just point out on that, Tom, though, that the McCarthy Finger hourly rate is only $245 an hour, which is lower than our new rate or what we're talking about. So, I mean, it's been a relative bargain.
Okay. We have Mr. Tippett.
Yes. Department 1984 refund on real property tax. Those were certiorarities from Mamaroneck. They are all from 2012 to 2014. Have we paid the balance that is actually being defended by the town of Rye yet? Or are we still going to get that bill? In other words, we had to defend everything up to 2014. The actual settlements, in some cases, go 2 or 3 more years. I would assume that when we settled, the town settled, in fact, it shows Top of the Ridge settled through 2017, which means there's got to be additional rebates. Have we already paid those, or are they coming in the near future?
Oh, you know the answer to that question?
Yes, the town of Rye has has various taxers from the Rye community, a portion of the village of Mamaroneck. Currently, they're all being reviewed and appraisals are going to them. But each certiorari differs and the number of years for each certiorari differs based on how they were filed. We are monitoring it, and the town of Rye gives us quarterly updates on where we are with these.
I guess, okay, the question translates to how much more are we anticipating within the next 18 months of the cases that have already been litigated and that we will be on the hook for?
I can provide you a spreadsheet of all those cases. They're projecting close to 300,000 for next year.
Our share would be 300,000?
For next year, for what they feel they're going to settle.
Yeah, that includes, but what we have some that are going to be due this year because we settled 3 cases that we paid our portion of. My question is, when are we going to get the bill for Rye Town's portion, because they settled at the same time as us? We had split years. Top of the Ridge had 3 years with us, and I think they had 2 years with Rye. That whole thing was settled. There's $10,000 that has to be charged back to the village of Mamaroneck through Rye's settlement, not our settlement. All the settlements that were on this were up to 2014, which means we still have to get Rye's. Have we already paid what Rye settled their portion of the same real property tax rebates? In other words, let's say Top of the Ridge is the easiest one. They got 2012 to 2016. We already paid 2012 to 2014 with this sorority. The rest of the sorority, because we gave up our assessor, is now handled and settled by the town of Rye. Have we already paid that portion, or is that portion going to be coming probably within the next month? Because that is settled. It's about when we're paying it, or have we already paid it?
The answer is he doesn't have the information in front of him right now. Just so the folks at home understand, the village of Mamaroneck stopped being an assessing unit in 2014, as Mr. Tippett pointed out. So we have engaged Goldberger and Stout to handle the certiorari's from 2014 back. Everything from 2014 forward, both in the town of Mamaroneck and the town of Rye, is settled and handled by the village attorney, the town attorneys in those two municipalities. So we are then required to pay, what the settlement all portion would be. I've never seen a situation where that there was a divergence between what the town and village settled for anyway. So it was a smart move when they did it in 2014. As I pointed out, I don't think Augie has this information in front of him. That's a question that's better for budget time and abstract the order of vouchers.
Okay.
So
I have
Augie,
one other question. Public Works Administration, we had last meeting a charge of $199,000 for dump trucks. This meeting we have $264,913 for 2 dump trucks. Is that 4 dump trucks? Is it 2 dump trucks? We paid for one meeting, one last meeting, one this meeting, or is it an update on what we paid for the 2 dump trucks?
I think it says the invoice, we'll pay the invoice based on the delivery and acceptance of the vehicle. So if, one vehicle gets delivered, 1 week and the other one comes a couple weeks later, they'll be on different abstracts.
Right.
Okay, so then we actually paid for the 2 trucks approximately $460,000.
I think the confusion here is that the board approved purchasing the trucks 2 weeks ago. That wasn't on the abstract. It was a resolution. The board approved the purchase of the truck. Now the bill comes due. We gave our staff the ability to go out and buy it. They bought it. Now here's the bill. That's what's confusing me.
so I
Well, my
guess,
question is it 2 different trucks? Is there one truck for $199
No.
and another truck for $246, or is it 2 vehicles for $199, or is it 2 vehicles for $246?
Dan, do you quickly know the answer to this?
If we bought it from the same vendor, it would be on the purchase order. I'd have to look at the original purchase order, but it would denote what was being purchased because it would have the board resolution attached to it. I can try and look in KVS real quickly.
Yeah.
Do you know the vendor on the?
Mayor, can
On
I
the
ask a
account?
question?
Yes. Ms. Roberts has some clarification here.
I think. Glenn, are you talking about the resolution tonight for D, correcting the previously adopted budget transfer?
Abstract of the bills, capital spending, you have 2 dump trucks.
Glenn, what page, Glenn?
35. 35.
This date. And then last meeting, you also had 2 dump trucks for $199. I'm wondering, is it an update of last, or are we getting 4 trucks? That's what I'm confused with. You had an abstract of the bills, capital projects for $199 the last meeting, right? Charged to the Public Works Administration line. This meeting, you have one under 1490, capital 264,913 for 2 dump trucks. Did you simply, the
So
trucks
I think-
given more expensive? Is it one truck for one meeting, one truck for the other? That's what I'm confused about. Is the grand total $463,000, or is the grand total of the trucks $264, or the grand total of the trucks $199?
So the 246 was for a new Mack Granite truck. Actually, I seem to recall as we bought 2 trucks. I think the board authorized the purchase maybe about 6 months ago. But yeah, these are two trucks. I'm looking at the description now. Yeah, we purchased one new Mack Granite 44 FCR. We bought it from Chevrolet of Watsonville. So the original approval, I believe, was for two trucks, and we're paying them on 2 separate vouchers, one each. Does that
So
answer the question?
All right,
Dan, I think the question is, are there 2 trucks or 4 trucks?
2 trucks.
2 trucks. All right, that's the answer.
And what's the cost of each truck?
What you just said it was, Glenn.
199 and
246.
264.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
That answers my question.
Thank you. I need a motion to accept the order of bills if there aren't any more questions.
So moved.
I'll second. Augie, call the roll.
Trustees Winthrop,
Yes.
Natchez,
Yes.
Lucas,
Yes.
DeFour,
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Aye, thank you.
Dan, it would be helpful if you could get a clarification when you can get to it, just to make sure that there are 2 trucks or 4 trucks. Okay?
Sure, I can. I mean, I'll see if I can send out the 2 separate vouchers to the board. Just
Thank you very much.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a 4A, resolution accepting donation from the Marine Education Center. This is a donation from Miss Karen Buckwald. And Miss Buckwald is donating on behalf of her friend Matt. And Matt and Karen became friends at a beach cleanup. And they are donating to buy those picker-up things that they use to pick up the garbage on the beach, so that they can have more of them and better ones. And we appreciate their donation. We appreciate their volunteerism. A lot of people do about stuff, and some people do stuff about stuff. So I appreciate it. I'll make the motion that we accept that donation.
So move. Or second.
Will we see the call?
Trustees Winthrop,
Yes. What a great tale.
Natchez,
Yes.
Lucas,
Yes.
DeFour,
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Aye. The next item on the agenda is 4B resolution accepting justice court audit. Well, you just want to talk a little bit about the audit?
Absolutely. On an annual basis, the Justice Court is required to have an independent audit done of their financials. Monroe County Babies did the audit as of May 31st, 2020. They have an unqualified opinion, which is a good opinion. However, they were unable to account for certain differences, which they noted in their financials. That's it. Now, in accordance to the Justice Court's law, we have to file a resolution with the board, letting them know that the such audit was done, as noted in the resolution. Section 419 of the Uniform Court of Acts requires that the Justice Court annually provide their court records and dockets to the respective village board, and that such records then be examined or audited, and the facts be entered into the minutes of the Board of Proceedings. So these are the audit statements that was done in accordance to that section of the law.
Are there any questions or concerns?
Move approval.
Okay. Mr. Tippett has his hand up. No, I guess he took it down. Or is it up?
No, it's up again. Glenn, is your
Yeah.
hand up or down?
Up. For the Justice Court audit, I just want everybody to take notice that the bail is much less than it's been. I told you that this is New York State's new policy about no bail, and that the amount of bail that we are going to be receiving as a village, therefore, is going to be much less, and the audit report actually reflects that. Thank you.
I just want to point out that bail is not supposed to be a punitive fee. It's just to make sure people come to court. So it shouldn't be looked on as a revenue generator. It's just a guarantee appearance. Anybody have any questions or concerns? Take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Augustino.
Trustees Winthrop,
Yes.
Natchez,
Yes.
Lucas,
Yes.
the floor,
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Aye. Item 4C, resolution scheduling a public hearing for PLK 2020 front yard garbage pickup. Since the pandemic has taken hold, the village, the town, a lot of communities have required folks to bring the garbage out to the curb, which is really commonplace in most municipalities. It's been working pretty well. Doing it saves us money. It saves injuries to workers going behind and the side of houses. And it's environmentally friendly because trucks do not have to idle as long. So it's good in a lot of ways. So we proposed this law, which we will discuss in a resolution. The date is January 25th, which is obviously wrong. So we want to make this for February 8th, I believe is the first board meeting.
Well, before we proceed with this, Bob was going to try and,
But I just want to get the date of the resolution before we start. Okay? Because Bob's talking about the law, this is the scheduling. Would you like to schedule it for February 8th? Does that sound good to everybody?
Yes.
Sally, is that enough time to advertise?
It should be, Bob. If we get it in tomorrow, we just need 3 days.
Okay.
All right. In work session, we talked about slight amendments to the law, which having to do with exempting people over 70, and also for folks who are incapacitated and who obviously cannot wheel the can down to the curb. So Bob, do you have that language?
I have a suggestion, Mayor. The sentence that's highlighted, because it's an addition, that begins upon proof in the form of,
Okay.
right in the middle of 200-4E, where it says upon proof in the form of. My suggestion is that that sentence be amended to read as follows. The village manager may exempt from this requirement any residence in which there are no adults under the age of 70, or there is no resident physically able to bring the refuse containers to the curb.
I think that reflects what we discussed. Thank you, Bob.
You're removing the piece of the note from a decision, decision?
I think because it says the village manager may exempt, I think that allows the village manager to require such proof as he deems appropriate or she deems appropriate in the future.
Doesn't this make it clear, kind of clear what the requirement is instead of any other? This is how it's working now, right?
I don't know how it's working now.
Yeah, that's how it's working now.
Yeah, I think it gives clarity to that it's medical or the senior amendment that I proposed.
Okay, let's.
So I think you should keep it because it's so that it's not arbitrary, so it's just clear why.
So let's say that sentence again with upon proof as the prefix.
Well, the problem is it doesn't work the way I've written it as a prefix. So let me try this. The village manager may exempt from this requirement any residence in which there are no resident adults under the age of 70 or there is no resident, comma, upon proof in the form of a note from a treating physician, comma, able to bring the refuse containers to the curb. Is that better?
I think that works.
That does it. Thanks.
So Lynn, thank you.
That's a solid double. Okay, with that amendment to this law, which will be posted tomorrow, would anybody like to schedule a public hearing for February 8th?
So move.
I'll second.
Augie, please call a roll.
Trustees Winstrup,
Yes.
Natchez,
Yes.
Lucas,
Yes.
Tefor,
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Aye. Okay, next is 4D, correcting adopted budget transfer. On January 11th, the budget transfer was approved by the Board of Trustees to fund overtime account for traffic and leak removal, whereas there was a typo in the previous resolution incorrectly noting the budget line for traffic overtime was A, gives the number, and whereas the resolution request, this is really just requesting that it be properly categorized. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. Doesn't change the amount that was transferred, and it doesn't require us to transfer more money. This is just dotting the i's and crossing the t's. Okay. Thank you. Anybody have any questions or concerns? Okay.
What traffic control overtime is what?
What?
Traffic control overtime is what?
That's when like Con Ed is doing a job. You'll see that's going on now to replacing the gas, and you have the police out there.
So is that reimbursable or not?
Yes.
You know, I just am concerned about taking stuff out of the snow removal, particularly when there's a storm that we may or may not have
We've already done
in the
this.
next 24 hours.
Dan, we've already moved the money. This is just putting it in the right label. That's what the resolution is talking about. The money has already been moved. There was a typo in the past resolution. This fixes the typo. Does anybody have any questions or concerns other than that? All right, I'll make the motion.
Second.
Augie?
Trustees Winstrup,
Yes.
Natchez,
I'll vote yes, but I'm very bothered if I hear that this is moved, money's been moved prior to being authorized.
No, Dan, you're not understanding. This was approved before. They had the category, the number from which it was taken, not the amount, the place it was taken, they had a typo. This is correcting the budget to which department it's coming out of. It's clear in the resolution. Resolution updating chapter 347 fees of the Village of Mamaroneck in regard to parking permits.
Did everyone else vote on that?
What?
No.
On that last one? We need to finish.
Trustee
Sorry.
Lucas,
Yes.
My bad.
Trustee Tefor,
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Aye. Resolution adopting fees and charges for parking permits. This was discussed in work session a couple of weeks ago. It goes in tandem with the law that was just passed. There are some slight increases, but there's a larger increase for non-resident railroad, bringing us more in line with our neighboring communities. Does anybody have any questions or concerns?
No, glad we're getting this done.
Same.
Sally will be happy. And Sally, thank you for your work on it. I know you really worked hard to get this out.
You're welcome.
Hopefully it'll be easier now that you got all this work done. It'll be easier on a day-to-day basis.
Somebody wish to make a motion?
I'll move.
Second.
Augie?
Trustees Winstrup,
Yes.
Natchez,
Yes.
Lucas,
Yes.
Tefor,
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Aye. Next item is 4F, certification of unpaid taxes for fiscal year.
What is it?
For fiscal year 2021. We, the undersigned, being members of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Mamaroneck, do hereby certify that we have compared the annexed account of unpaid taxes for the fiscal year commencing June 1st, 2020 and ending May 31st, 2021 with the original roll of the Village of Mamaroneck, for which tax rolls the said accounts have been transcribed, and we do hereby certify that we find the accounts to be correct. Questions or concerns? Just so you know, this is something that actually has to be signed by each and every one of us. So you'll have to make arrangements with the clerk treasurer staff, or talk to Sally. Maybe there's a way to do it where you can do it without actually coming in and having to go out. I need a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay.
Take your pick. But Augie's not there.
The clerk treasurer just had to go out. I'm going to call the roll.
Okay.
Oh, he's back in the nick of time, this guy. He never misses a roll call.
Trustees Winstrup,
Yes.
Natchez,
Yes.
Lucas,
Yes.
Tefor,
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Aye.
Hey, Sally, could we just sign the individual papers that we have and then mail them in? Can you have like 5 pages with all 5 signatures, or do you want them all on one sheet?
Augie, what do you think? I don't think it would be a
And you
problem. But
guys
I'm
can
gonna
copy the total and sign one at a time? Or I can mail them out. When you mail it back, I'll mail it to somebody else.
So you want them all on one sheet?
Yes.
Okay.
I can meet you outside.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Thank you. I know the least we go out, the better, but some things have to. The law is the law. Next item is communication for board. We have round 2. Just tip it again. We'll keep the time. Go ahead, Glenn. We're gonna let Glenn in.
Glenn, unmute yourself.
There you go. Just to be, the only reason I brought up the bail was for budgetary reasons. How the policy is, nothing to do, but whether it's bail, death certificates, divorce paper, whatever, we have a budget line that assumed X amount for bail, and we have to assume there's less money for budgetary purposes only. In your abstract work session, you that's not on the agenda, but you had 3 police cars that you're looking to purchase for $155,000, and then if you look down, you saw 28 items on the agenda. Would that be the Scott packs that we're putting towards the $250,000 grant from safety from Otis?
I can answer that, Mr. Mayor. That was just the backup on the item. What I provided as backup was the information I had provided to Assemblyman Otis's office back when this grant first came out. It's solely, the work session item is solely for 3 police cars.
What was that?
What I provided as backup was the information that I provided to Assemblyman Otis's office back when the grant announcement first came out, which I believe was April or May last year. The item on the agenda is strictly for the 3 police vehicles.
Yeah. Well, I saw that we had previously had Scott Packs and a fire chief's car. If you do the police cars at 155, the Scott Packs at 30,000, and the fire chief car at 65,000, that would add up to 250. That would be the grant. Is that what we're spending the money on?
Yes, but this item that was on the work session was a discrete item solely for the police vehicles. The village board also already authorized the purchase of the Scott Packs, and this was the police chief requesting that the village board approve the purchase of the 3 police cruisers.
Yeah. Well, all I want to know is if those are the 3 things that are being used for the grant. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's simple.
Okay.
The 2 trucks that we purchased was put in line 1490. Were they part of the bond that you passed, ABCD, or does that have to be funded in the future?
Funded in the future. Oh. Yeah, it's going to be funded in the future.
Thank you. Happy note. New York State has a basically, if you lost money, you just simply go on New York State, you put in your name, and you look for lost money. Like if you put in Tom Murphy, you see that there's Tom Murphy money on Prospect Avenue. There's Tom Murphy money on Florence Avenue. Murphy Brothers has money on there. Go on to the New York State controller's office, type in your name, type in your dead relative's name, and like my grandmother's been dead for 30 years, and we found 4 checks from Bloomingdale's for her. So it's amazing. They got billions of dollars, basically old insurance policy, old banks, anything. Anybody can't get in contact with a check or something else. Landlord rebates. Just type in your last name, and if it's not you, maybe you get lucky and one of your relatives got some money. With that, the last thing is, I also occasionally glance at other public meetings, and every single one of them has had a financial update. We are in very tough financial times, and I think that we need to start to get financial updates of exactly where we stand with the budget. Thank you.
A couple of financial updates to clarify. And the proposed budget will be coming out soon. Thank you, Glenn. Hold the hands up. Report from the village manager.
Nothing to report, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, I'm sorry. File for the record the agreement with Whiteman, Osterman, and Hannah LLP.
Okay. Report from the clerk treasurer.
Yes, Mayor, we have a resignation of the Marine Education Center Advisory Committee, Eddie Geiderman.
Thank Mr. Godman for his time and effort. Hopefully he will be volunteering for another position in the future. Report from the village attorney.
Excuse me, local law number 6 has been filed with the Secretary of State, Mayor. That's the local law regarding the appointment of the clerk treasurer. It becomes effective if it's approved at the referendum in November.
Thank you. Minutes of commissions, boards, and committees. The minutes of the Board of Trustees work session and regular meetings of January 11th, 2021. Minutes of the Zoning Board of Appeal meetings of January 9th and 21st, February 6th, March 5th, April 2nd, May 7th, June 4th, July 23rd, and August 13th, 2020. They were that far behind. Minutes of the Board of Architecture review of December 17th, 2020. Minutes of the Police Reform and Reinvention Committee meetings on December 15th, 2020 and January 5th, 2021. That being said, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Have a good night.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Stay well, everyone.